Right, now, boys and girls, now this one we're going to do it together, right? They're saying here, given that f at x is equal to x to the power of 3 plus x squared minus 5x plus 3. Is that correct? Yes, that is f at x is equal to x to the power of 3 plus x squared minus 5x plus 3. Good. Now, the first question says, determine all the intercepts of f at x. Determine all the intercept. It means now determining the x and the y intercept of f. Now we are looking for the x and the y intercept of f. Right, boys and girls, what I'm going to do, you're going to get 3 minutes to find the x and the y intercept, and then immediately we discuss specifically the x and the y intercept. You know, when I talk of the x, something is coming in your mind, and also when I talk of the y, you also remember something. Good. Now in 3 minutes time, we are going to discuss 3.1, all the intercepts of f. Right, thank you very much. Let us see what is it that you are having here. Y-intercept as well as the x-intercept. Like I said, the y-intercept is easier to find. The y-intercept is easier to find because we know that we must let x to be what? Let x to be 0, right? And now, from these functions here, remember f at x, g at x, each of it represent the y. Now we have y is equals to, that will be 0 here, that will be 0, that will be 0. Then it means the y there will be a positive 3. That is the y-intercept of the functions. Is that correct? Good. Now we must look for the x-intercept, right? We must look for the x-intercept. Must look for the x-intercept on the other side. What do you know with regard to the x-intercept? I know that y is supposed to be what? Y is supposed to be 0. Of course, here we have 0 is equals to x to the exponent of 3 plus x squared minus 5x plus 3. Right, that's what you have here. Now, can you see now you have a cubic equation now? Yeah, now you have a cubic equation because one side now is 0. You still remember the standard form, which is very important. The exponents must be in a descending order. Right, now, what do we do from here? You know we must factorize this one. One of these factor would be the linear, and the other one will be the quadratic. Is that correct? Yes, this is 100% correct. Good. Now, you remember that I said earlier on, when you factorize, when you solve the cubic functions, we take out a common factor. If no common factor, you try to group the terms. If you can't group the terms, now you lose a factor theorem. Is that correct? Yes, boys and girls, you know when you use the factor theorem, you'll be taking these values from -3 to +3. And now you substitute them here. The one that will give you a 0, now you say that one is a factor. Is that correct? Yes, that is 100% correct. But you know, sometimes taking the values one by one, substituting them, they will take too much time. Of course, now we'll try to work it out here on the calculator so that at least we have that one quickly instead of substituting them 1, 1, 1. Okay, first of all, I need to have this function here. That is x to the exponent of 3 there. And then I have plus, of course, x squared there, minus 5 there, alpha x, and then plus 3. I have now this function here. Now equal sign. Of course, I'm not looking for the second one. Now, it says you start with what? I want to start from -3. I want to substitute all these values from -3, which is good. And now, I can also go to a +3 as well. It's still fine with me. Good. Now, look at this one. The steps are the multiples, right? Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Of course, I want to use the multiples of 1. Then that will be great, right? Now, look at this one now. The values of x is a -3, -2, -1. Now, if I substitute -3 here, what will happen? Then I get 0. If I substitute -3 here, I get 0. The y value there is what? It's 0. Then it means what? It means x plus 3 is a what? It's a factor. Is that correct? Yes, if you get 0 on this side of y, then it shows that when you substitute -3, then you give 0. Therefore, x plus 3 will be a factor. That's great. Let me see if there is another one. as well. Yes, there is another one here. The other one is when x is 1, then y is also what? Y is also a 0. That would be great. Of course, I think, of course, I have only 2. I have only 2. Right, boys and girls, we have what? We have x is equals to negative 3. When we substitute negative 3 there, we get 0. And also when we substitute 1 there, we also get what? We also get 0. Good. Now, it means we can take one of the two. If we have something like this one, we know that x plus 3 here is a factor, so that for us, when we substitute that negative 3, we get 0. Or also here, x what? X minus 1, also a factor. So when you substitute positive 1 there, we get 0. Good. Now I can now say, okay, x plus 1, no, it's a factor. Is that correct? Good. And now, this side, now we are looking for the quadratic one. Is that correct? Yes, the quadratic one, of course, it must be what? It must be ax squared plus bx plus c. Boys and girls, there are many ways to solve this problem here. Many ways. One can decide to do what? One can decide to use the long division method. Of course, it is still correct. One can use, there are many ways to solve this problem, right? But at the end of the day, make sure that whatever you are using, you understand it. Make sure that whatever you are using, you understand it, right? Of course, I'll try to save time as well. The one that I'm going to use on this side, of course, I think it will save our time as well, when we solve this one here. Right, boys and girls, I would start on this way, right? Of course, to say this one here, it is my factor name. What is the factor there? It should be 3. Yes, it should be positive 3 there. The factor there is a minus 3. Is that correct? And thereafter, what is it that is going to happen? Then I write all the coefficient name, all the coefficient of this function here. They must be 4. Sometimes you'll find that we have 3. Then we must make them to be 4. How? We will see later on. Right, the coefficient of the x to the power of 3 there, coefficient of x to the power of 3 there is 1, and then coefficient of x squared there is also 1, and then the coefficient of this x is a minus 5, and the coefficient here is what? Is 3. Is that correct? Yes, that's 100% correct. And now from here, we know that when you substitute negative 3 here, what do we get? When you substitute negative 3 here, we get what? We get 0. When you substitute negative 3, we get 0. And from here, boys and girls, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to add this one. 1 plus 0 there is 1. Is that correct? Yes. And now I take minus 3 times 1. It gives me minus 3. Yeah, it gives me minus 3. Of course, and then I take 1 minus 3. It will give me what? A minus 2. Yeah, it will give me minus 2. And then, of course, now I see minus 2 multiplied by minus 3, it will give me a positive 6. That's great. And now from this one here, we see minus 5 plus 6, it will give me what? A positive 1. Good. And now minus 3 multiplied by a positive 1, of course, it's a minus 3. 3 minus 3, that is 0. Right. Boys and girls, if you can have a 0 here and 0 there, then you know that you have it correct, especially the last one here. Of course, this one we know is just to indicate that minus 3 is a factor, and this one also. If you don't get 0 here, then you must know that something is not correct. Now, then I can say, okay, A is equals to 1, B is equals to minus 1, and also C is equals to a positive 1. Then I can write this on this side to say, good, now we have now x plus 3 here, and this one we have x squared because A is 1, and now from there, B also is a minus 2x, and now C is a positive 1. And then, of course, here we have the quadratic one. Right, boys and girls, like I said earlier on, there are, of course, many ways. There are many ways. One can also say, of course, remember now we have x plus 3 here, and also we have the bigger brackets there is equals to 0. Is that correct? And now we say, our equations there is 0 is equals to x to the power of 3 plus x squared, and then minus 5x, and then plus 3. Right, now we say, okay, we need to say x multiplied by what would give us that? That here should be x squared, because x multiplied by x squared will be x to the exponent of 3. And of course, we need to get 3 when you multiply 3 by something here. That value there will be a positive 1. So that positive 3 multiplied by positive 1 can give us the positive 3. Now the challenge will then be the bx, right? The challenge will be the bx. Like I said, boys and girls, right, you only decide to say, okay, I know that when I take x multiplied by 1, it will give me x. And also when I take x multiplied by what? When I take 3 multiplied by bx, it will give me 3bx. Good, I took this one multiplied by this one and this one multiplied by this one. Right, now look at this one. It's x plus 3bx, right? This one, it must give us minus 5x. Good. When I add this one or minus this one, they must give me what? Minus 5x. Now, because the variable there, the exponent there is 1. Good. And now from here, what is this one here? It's a 1 plus 3b is equals to minus 5. Good. And now I can take 1 on the other side. Then I have 3b is equals to minus 5 minus 1. Good. And now minus 5 minus 1 it's a minus 6. That is 3b. I divide by 3, I divide by 3. Therefore, b there is a minus 2. That's great. Look exactly. We still have what? We still have a minus 2. Like I said, boys and girls, please make sure that whatever method that you are using, you understand that you must also try to save time. Because remember, the paper that we are writing is for 3 hours, right? Of course, sometimes you always complain that 3 hours is not enough. Yeah, but try to make sure that you accommodate that one so that by the end of that 3 hours, you have responded almost to all questions. Good. And now we have 0 here. And now 0 is equals to, we still have x plus 3. Now we must try to factorize this 1. That is x multiplied by x. That's great. Factors of 1 is 1 multiplied by 1. Of course, both of them must be negative because negative times negative will be positive. And now, therefore, now we can say x is equals to minus 3 or x is equals to 1. X is equals to 1. Good. Right. Boys and girls, I think now we can move to the next part now. This is the y-intercept and also these are your x-intercept. Are you happy now? Yes, I can see the smile now. Good. And